Look, I just want to start by saying I am not a pervert, and I need everyone to understand that before I explain how I ended up half-naked and chasing an 8-year-old through my apartment building. This was supposed to be a romantic night. My wife and I have been together for 8 years, and between work, stress, and the sheer exhaustion of adulthood, our quality time has been suffering. So, I decided to surprise her. I set the mood: candles, soft music, wine. I even wore the robe, the fluffy, expensive one she got me last Christmas. And beneath it? Absolutely nothing. I was feeling bold, confident, ready to reignite the spark. I just didn't realize my plan had one major flaw. The door. I didn't close the damn door. I walked into our bedroom where my wife was lounging on the bed, scrolling through her phone. She looked up at me, mildly curious, probably expecting me to ask where we kept the extra paper towels or something. Instead, I dropped the robe, hands on my hips, full reveal. "Hey babe," I said in my best sexy voice. "You in the mood for a late-night snack?" I expected a giggle, maybe a playful eye roll, possibly an immediate pounce. What I didn't expect was the blood-curdling scream. Not from my wife, but from behind me. I spun around just in time to see Timmy, our neighbor's 8-year-old kid, staring at me like he had just witnessed a murder. His tiny face was frozen in a mask of pure, unfiltered horror, his little hands trembling around the Nintendo Switch he was holding. I don't know how long we stared at each other, but it felt eternal, like a horrific Mexican standoff where the only weapons were sheer, unrelenting trauma. And then, as if realizing the full weight of what he had just seen, Timmy screamed again, the kind of scream that makes you instinctively check for a knife-wielding serial killer behind you. But no, Timmy wasn't looking at anything but me, naked. In his brain, I was the serial killer. And then, as if his survival instincts kicked in, Timmy dropped his Switch and bolted straight out of the apartment. I panicked. Wait, Timmy, no. It's not what it looks like. And in my absolute stupidity, I chased after him, which, in hindsight, was the worst possible decision I could have made. Now, imagine you're Linda, Timmy's mom. You step out of your apartment to grab your DoorDash, and what do you see? Your 8-year-old son sprinting down the hallway, screaming bloody murder, and behind him, your half-naked neighbor flailing and yelling, "Timmy, please, let me explain." Yeah, it was bad. Linda gasped in pure, visceral horror. "What the hell is going on?" she shrieked, stepping protectively in front of her son. I froze, finally realizing how this looked. Timmy clung to her leg, face buried in her jeans, sobbing like he had just seen the devil himself. Linda's eyes slowly traveled down to my robe, which was not fully closed. I have never, in my life, felt such full-body shame. My voice cracked. "I can explain." Linda's face was cycling through all 5 stages of rage, but before she could call the cops, my wife appeared in the doorway, doubling over with laughter. "Oh my God," she wheezed, wiping tears from her eyes. "You idiot." Linda turned to her, still horrified. "What the hell is going on?" My wife tried to get it together. She snorted. "He was trying to seduce me. He didn't know the door was open." Linda blinked, processing, then turned to me, eyes still blazing with suspicion. "You were naked?" "Yes." "In front of my son?" "Not on purpose." Timmy let out a choked sob. Linda looked ready to commit murder. Long story short, I spent the next 20 minutes desperately explaining myself while my wife sat on the couch, struggling to breathe through her laughter. Eventually, Linda believed me, or at least, she stopped looking like she was about to stab me. But Timmy is never going to recover from this. The kid won't even look at me. If we pass in the hallway, he flattens against the wall like I'm a goddamn ghost. And the worst part? Linda told everyone. The mailman knows. The building manager knows. Even the DoorDash guy knows. I am officially the naked neighbor. And I will never live this down. Ever. I thought it was over. Sure, I had been branded as the naked neighbor. And yes, Timmy now treated me like I was an urban legend meant to keep kids from wandering the halls at night, but at least no one had called the cops. I figured if I kept my head down and fully clothed for the foreseeable future, this would eventually blow over. I severely underestimated how much my wife enjoys my suffering. She told everyone, not just Linda, not just the neighbors in our building. No, she took it to the group chat. The sacred space where every married woman in her social circle exchanged gossip, husband complaints, and wine recommendations. I didn't find out until 2 days later when I went to grab a beer from the fridge and she casually mentioned, "Oh, by the way, Sarah from my yoga class says you're her hero." I blinked. What? She grinned. You know, for standing up to the oppressive nature of pants. I felt my soul leave my body. You didn't. Oh, I absolutely did. She took a sip of wine, barely holding back laughter. You are now a cautionary tale. She wasn't kidding. The next day, I got a knowing look from our UPS guy. I went to the gym and some random dude at the lockers clapped me on the shoulder and muttered, "Stay strong, man." The worst part, I still hadn't seen Timmy. Linda had gone full witness protection program. Every time I left my apartment, she seemed to have some kind of sixth sense, immediately pulling Timmy into their unit like I was a hurricane warning. If I was in the hallway, their door stayed shut. If I was outside checking the mail, she wouldn't come out until I was gone. I wasn't sure if she still thought I was a menace to society or if she was just preventing Timmy from having Nom-style flashbacks every time he saw me. But either way, it was getting ridiculous. I was determined to fix it. That was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 was thinking a grand gesture would help. I figured a heartfelt apology would be good, but since words clearly failed me last time, I needed something physical. I decided I'd get Timmy a brand new Nintendo Switch game. The kind kids lose their minds over, expensive enough that an 8-year-old would probably forgive an accidental crime against his retinas. I even wrote a sincere apology note. "Hey Timmy, sorry for the accidental scare. Hope you enjoy this. From, the guy who promises to always wear pants." I now understand how bad that last line was. At the time, I thought it was light-hearted, playful, friendly. I did not realize it made me sound like a reformed nudist who needed to reassure a child I wouldn't be traumatizing him further. But I wasn't done screwing up yet. No, my final mistake was deciding to hand-deliver it myself. I knocked on their door, game in hand, fully clothed and deeply regretful. Linda answered, already looking like she wanted to slam the door in my face. "Hey," I started, trying to sound as non-threatening as possible. "I just wanted to." Before I could finish, Timmy appeared behind her. The second he saw me, his eyes went wide with primal terror. I barely had time to react before he let out a high-pitched, breathless scream and immediately dropped his Switch again like I was some kind of naked bogeyman come back to haunt him. Linda snapped her head back to me, eyes narrowing like she was gearing up for round 2 of calling the police. "What the hell did you do?" she demanded. "Nothing," I yelped. "I swear." Timmy was still screaming. Linda spun back toward him, trying to calm him down, but he was shaking his head violently and pointing at me like I was the goddamn Babadook. I panicked. I wanted to apologize. I got him a gift. I thrust the game toward her like it was a hostage negotiation. Linda grabbed it, looking deeply suspicious. "What is this? A peace offering?" I said weakly. She stared at me for a long time, then looked at the game, then read the note. Her eyes snapped back up. "Oh my God! What?" She held up the note, shaking it at me like it was evidence in a trial. "Do you even hear yourself? The guy who promises to always wear pants? Are you kidding me?" Oh no." I opened my mouth to explain, but Timmy's dad chose that exact moment to appear in the doorway. I had never met him before. Big dude. Beefy. Looked like he had the strength to throw me into the sun if given the chance. He took one look at the situation, his wife looking furious, his son looking traumatized, me sweating bullets and holding an apology note that strongly implied I had a nudity problem, and his entire body tensed. "What the hell is going on?" he said, in the voice of a man who was one sentence away from violence. Linda sighed dramatically. "This is the guy who traumatized Timmy." Timmy's dad cracked his knuckles. "Listen, I've seen enough action movies to know what happens after that." I threw the game into Linda's hands, yelled, "Enjoy!" and sprinted back to my apartment before I could get turned into a human pretzel. I locked the door, leaned against it, and slid to the floor, feeling my soul leave my body. Now, my wife won't stop laughing, Timmy still won't look at me, and I think I might have to legally change my name and move to another state. This was supposed to be a simple apology. Now, I am officially on the neighborhood watch list. Again. I spent the next 2 days in full-blown avoidance mode. I timed my grocery runs to avoid any potential run-ins with Timmy's family, took the stairs instead of the elevator just in case Linda was waiting in the lobby with an intervention team, and seriously considered filing a lease transfer to another building. My wife, of course, was having the time of her life at my expense. She had adopted a new habit of casually whispering, "Hey, you in the mood for a snack?" Every time I let my guard down, which sent her into fits of laughter and made me seriously reconsider my life choices. But my self-imposed exile came to an abrupt end when I ran into Linda in the worst possible way. Literally. It was Saturday morning, and I was exiting my apartment with a bag of trash, praying to every deity that I could make it to the chute unseen. I had barely stepped into the hallway when I collided full speed into Linda, sending both of us stumbling back. The trash bag exploded on impact, spilling an absolutely mortifying mix of takeout containers, crumpled beer cans, and what I can only describe as an ungodly amount of Taco Bell wrappers onto the floor. Linda stared at the mess, then at me, then let out a slow breath through her nose. "You." I was already panicking. "I'm so sorry, No." She cut me off, raising a hand. "You are coming to dinner." I blinked. "What?" "Tonight," she continued, ignoring the mess at our feet. "You, your wife, me, my husband, and Timmy. Dinner. Our place. 7 o'clock. I was so thrown off by the sudden invite that I just stood there like an idiot. "Wait, why?" Linda crossed her arms. "Because, whether I like it or not, we're neighbors, and my son is currently living in fear of running into you. I need him to see that you're a normal human being and not some pants-hating demon that haunts our hallway." That was, honestly, fair. I nodded slowly, desperately wanting to repair the damage I'd done. "Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. We'll be there." Linda gave a satisfied nod before stepping over my destroyed trash pile and heading to her door. I barely had a second to breathe before she paused, turned back, and added, "Oh, and for the love of God, wear pants." At 6:59 p.m., my wife and I were standing in front of Linda's door, me holding a pathetically small bottle of wine as a peace offering and her barely holding in her laughter at my obvious nerves. "It's going to be fine," she whispered as I adjusted my collar for the 10th time. "Just don't take your clothes off, and you might make it through the night." "Not helping," I hissed back, but before I could say anything else, the door swung open, and we were face to face with Timmy's dad. I had forgotten how big he was. The man looked like he could break me in half without blinking. For a second, he just stared at me, and I braced myself for some kind of threat, but instead, he exhaled sharply and said, "Come in." It wasn't exactly warm, but I wasn't dead yet, so I counted it as progress. Timmy was sitting at the dining table, gripping his fork like a weapon, eyes locked onto me like I was some kind of cursed entity that might try to steal his soul. I slowly raised a hand in a wave, and Timmy flinched. Linda groaned. "Timothy, we talked about this." Timmy swallowed hard. "I'm just making sure he doesn't do anything weird." My wife completely lost it. She turned away, shaking with laughter, and I mentally added her betrayal to the ever-growing list of reasons I was going to change my identity and flee the country. We all sat down, and I did my absolute best to appear as normal as possible, making small talk with Linda and her husband while very deliberately not looking directly at Timmy, because every time I did, he seemed to tense like I was about to start stripping again. For a few minutes, things were fine. We ate, we talked. My wife casually threw me under the bus by telling everyone that I once got stuck in a revolving door at the mall and had to be rescued by an elderly security guard. I was finally starting to relax. And then it happened. Timmy, still watching me like a hawk, suddenly gasped. I froze. Linda frowned. "What?" Timmy pointed directly at me. "He's wearing the same socks." Silence. I looked down. And sure enough, I was wearing the same damn socks I had on the night of the incident. Timmy's fork clattered against his plate as realization sank in. "It's his fate outfit," he whispered, voice trembling. "It's happening again." My wife, who had been barely holding it together all night, actually had to leave the table because she was laughing so hard. Linda looked like she wanted to bash her head against the wall. "Timothy, I swear to God." But it was too late. Timmy launched himself out of his chair, bolted down the hall, and slammed his bedroom door shut with enough force to shake the walls. Linda groaned into her hands. Timmy's dad pinched the bridge of his nose like this was my fault. I sat there, my soul fully leaving my body, knowing that no matter what I did, this child was going to be forever convinced that I was some kind of evil spirit trapped in a bathrobe. After a long, painful pause, Linda sighed, stood up, and gave me a half-hearted pat on the shoulder. "Well," she said dryly, "at least you kept your clothes on this time. I am officially Timmy's worst nightmare." If he had any doubts before about my supernatural evil, my sock choice that night sealed the deal. I was cursed, a bad omen, a walking hallway demon in human form. I had honestly believed the dinner would help, that spending time together in a fully clothed, family-friendly setting would prove to Timmy that I wasn't some pants-hating entity lurking in the building. Instead, the kid barricaded himself in his room, probably performing an exorcism with a Bible and a Nerf gun. Linda looked so tired. Her husband looked mildly homicidal. My wife, absolutely no help. She was crying with laughter. We left shortly after, and I swore I wouldn't make things worse. But, of course, I immediately made things worse. The next morning, I decided to apologize again. I know, but my guilt wouldn't let it go. Timmy was a child, and I had traumatized him. The kid deserved some kind of closure, and since my last apology attempt had ended in me fleeing for my life, I figured I'd try again, but smarter this time. No pants-related jokes, no personal deliveries, just a quiet, dignified gift to prove that I wasn't a danger to society. So, I wrote a new note, kept it simple this time. "Timmy, I'm really sorry for scaring you. Hope you like this. My name." Then, I left a small bag of goodies in front of their door, an assorted mix of candy, stickers, and a brand new pack of socks, because if the old ones were so haunted, maybe new socks would break the curse. I left the bag there and walked away, proud of myself. I should have known it wouldn't be that easy. That night, at exactly 2:32 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was a text. From Linda. "Linda, 2:32 a.m., why is there a foot on my doorstep?" I stared at the message for a full 30 seconds, my brain refusing to process it. A foot? What foot? Was this a metaphor? A joke? Some kind of weird mom slang I didn't understand? Then, my stomach dropped. The socks. I had thrown in some extra little gifts with the pack of socks. A few random toys and trinkets I found near the checkout at Target. One of them was a keychain. A small, rubber-severed foot keychain. It had been meant as a joke. I had picked it up, laughed to myself because it was foot-themed and I was giving Timmy new socks, and somehow didn't stop to think that maybe, just maybe, handing a child a tiny dismembered human foot would not be received well. Me, 2:33 a.m. I can explain. Linda, 2:33 a.m. Can you though? Me, 2:34 a.m. It was supposed to be a joke. It's a keychain. Please do not call the police. There was a long pause. And, Linda, 2:35 a.m. Timmy thinks it's a sign. Oh no. Me, 2:35 a.m. A sign of what? Linda, 2:36 a.m. He thinks you left a body part to warn him that if he speaks of the incident, he's next. I dropped my phone onto my face. I was done. Finished. My soul left my body. Because Timmy didn't think I was a regular, accidental nudist anymore. Timmy now thought I was a full-fledged serial killer. The next morning, I tried one last desperate attempt to fix this. I marched over to Linda's door at a reasonable, non-menacing hour, knocked 3 times, and braced myself. Linda opened it, arms crossed, looking exhausted. Timmy was nowhere in sight, probably peeking at me from the safety of his room, clutching a crucifix. "I need to explain," I said immediately. She sighed. "You've been explaining a lot lately." I ran a hand down my face. Okay, yeah, but this time it's important. I did not leave a foot as a threat. I groaned. It was a stupid joke. I was trying to be funny. I thought sock's foot. Haha, it made sense in my head. Linda raised an eyebrow. You thought dismemberment was funny? I wanted to die. It was a dumb impulse purchase, I admitted. I wasn't thinking. But I swear to you, I am not trying to send Timmy-coded murder messages. Linda studied me for a long time. Then finally, mercifully, she exhaled and rubbed her temple. Okay, she muttered. Fine. But you need to talk to him. I stiffened. What? She nodded toward the hallway. Go. Fix this. I turned slowly and saw Timmy standing at the end of the hall, half hidden behind a wall, watching me with suspicion and mild terror. This was it. This was my moment. I crouched down a little, keeping my voice soft, friendly. Hey, buddy. I think there's been a little misunderstanding. Timmy did not move. I cleared my throat. I'm not a serial killer. Still, nothing. Linda groaned. Timmy, for the love of God, just say something. Timmy slowly peeked out from behind the wall, glaring at me. Then why do you keep sending me body parts? Okay, yeah, that was fair. I sighed. That was an accident. I was just trying to make up for, the whole pants thing. Timmy shuddered violently at the memory. I pushed forward. I swear, I am not evil. I was just trying to be nice. I really don't want you to be scared of me. There was a long, tense silence. Then, finally, Timmy took a slow step forward. Do you promise, he asked, that you'll never ever take your clothes off again? I almost laughed but caught myself. Instead, I put my hand over my heart and gave him a solemn nod. I swear. Timmy narrowed his eyes, searching my face for any sign of deception. Then, after a painfully long pause, he nodded. Truce. Linda looked like she was about to cry from relief. Thank you, Jesus, she muttered. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need a nap. Timmy gave me one last wary glance, then walked back inside, disappearing into his room. Linda shut the door, and I exhaled, finally free. I turned around, and there was my wife, standing there, grinning. You swore an oath, she said, gleeful. You can never be naked again. I groaned. This was never going to end. I should have known that making peace with Timmy wouldn't be the end of this nightmare. I thought the worst was over, that I had finally repaired my reputation in the building, that I could go back to being just another normal, boring tenant who didn't accidentally traumatize children. But no, because Linda told the entire neighborhood that Timmy and I had a formal truce. And now, I had an even bigger problem. Everyone knew. The problem with living in a building full of nosy people is that they never let anything go. Apparently, my naked crimes had reached urban legend status. And now, my redemption was the talk of the complex. People I had never spoken to before were giving me knowing looks. The old lady in 5C actually gave me a thumbs up in the elevator. Someone left a pair of pants on my doormat as an offering. The building's Facebook group changed my contact name to The Trouser Truce. But the worst part, the absolute peak of my suffering, Timmy's dad. Now that I was no longer considered a threat to his son's well-being, the man had fully embraced me as his personal punching bag. I had spent weeks avoiding him because I was convinced he wanted to throw me off the balcony. But now he had a new approach. Relentless. Unforgiving. Mockery. It started the next morning when I walked into the lobby to grab my mail, finally feeling like a free man. That's when I heard it. Well. If it isn't Sir Never Nude himself. I turned slowly, already bracing for impact. There he was. Timmy's dad. Arms crossed. Smirking like a man who had been waiting for this moment. I tried to stay calm, nodding politely, but he was not done. Tell me, he continued, grinning. How does it feel, knowing you can never be naked again? I sighed, rubbing my face. It was an expression, not a legally binding contract. Was it? he said, eyes twinkling. Because Linda told me you swore an oath. Before I could respond, he turned to the front desk guy, who I had foolishly assumed was neutral territory. Hey Mark, he called out. You hear about this? My man here had to swear on his life that he'd never strip again. Mark, who had never acknowledged my existence before, immediately grinned. Oh, I heard. Legendary. I wanted to cease existing. Oh, come on, Timmy's dad continued, clearly enjoying my suffering. You mean to tell me you're just walking around in the shower fully clothed now? Socks and everything. I gave him the flattest stare possible. Yes, I bathe in jeans now. He burst out laughing. Good man. Timmy would be proud. And just like that, I knew this wasn't going to stop. Ever. I thought that was the worst of it. It wasn't. A few days later, my wife and I were out grabbing groceries, and as we were leaving the store, we ran into Timmy and Linda. Timmy stared at me. I tensed, waiting for him to flinch or run, but instead, he just nodded. An official acknowledgement of our new peace. I nodded back, feeling weirdly honored, like I had just been inducted into a secret society. Then Linda sighed dramatically. Timmy, go ahead. I frowned. Go ahead and what? Timmy cleared his throat, suddenly looking nervous. He hesitated, glancing at his mom. I need to apologize. I blinked. For what? He shifted awkwardly. For telling the whole school you were a criminal. Silence. I turned to Linda. Excuse me. She rubbed her temples. Yeah, so, funny thing, apparently, Timmy's version of the story got a little exaggerated. Exaggerated. I repeated slowly, my brain short-circuiting. Timmy wouldn't meet my eyes. I might have told people you were a wanted man. My soul left my body. Wanted? For what? I asked, terrified of the answer. Timmy winced. Indecent exposure. Arson. Possible bank robbery? I nearly choked. Bank robbery? Timmy looked so guilty that I could tell he knew he had taken it too far. Linda exhaled. Trust me, I shut it down immediately once I found out. But, you might want to avoid the elementary school for a while. My wife lost it. She was laughing so hard she had to hold onto the shopping cart. I turned back to Timmy, who was still refusing to make eye contact. Buddy, I said, trying very hard to control my breathing, do I at least get a cool nickname? Timmy thought about it. Then, reluctantly, he muttered, the bathrobe bandit. I sighed. I'll take it. So, that's my life now. I am the naked neighbor, the trouser truce, and the bathrobe bandit. I will never, ever live this down. Timmy still watches me like a hawk, but at least now, instead of pure horror, it's just mild suspicion. His dad refuses to let me forget any of this. And my wife? She is having the time of her life. The only silver lining is that Timmy is finally okay. He's not scared of me anymore, just convinced that I was once part of a criminal empire that collapsed after an unfortunate wardrobe malfunction. And honestly, that's a way cooler reputation than the truth. That's it for today's story. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more wild Reddit stories. Until next time, stay curious and keep the stories coming.